What is good? Welcome to the listening practice. I'll be your host. My name is Coflo. Thank you so much for joining me here on this podcast where we talk about all the things that I find enjoyable in the world of underground dance music, be it the dance itself, the movement, the stories, the venues, the philosophies, or even the nerdy stuff. I love the nerdy stuff. I love talking about getting into the weeds of the music, the audio, artistic forms of engineering, production, and all that good stuff. So thank you for joining me. As always, every episode is executively produced by my Patreon members. Thank you so much to the Patreon family for the support. If you too, for a cup of coffee, want to help a player out to be able to make these kind of episodes of this podcast, continue making more music, get early access to all of this content as well as VIP promo list, head over to patreon.com/Coflo. For those in the know, they know. I hope you join us over there. I appreciate the love. So let's get into it. Today's episode, it's the situation with the situation. Now, what am I talking about? What is the situation with the situation? Stranger Danger featuring Tony Soul, The Situation. It was my biggest remix project for all of 2025. Probably biggest digital project for sure of all of 2025. It was a remix that I did not expect to do the worldwide travel that it has done. It's gotten the attention by so many. It's continuing to be one of those tunes that I wake up every couple of days and I'm tagged in someone sharing it in a DJ mix or a post or talking about it, or what I ultimately love, seeing dance artists create dance to the tune. I'm very proud of the remix. I'm very proud of the project. Came out on Moulton Music, a local label here in the San Francisco Bay Area. So I'm very proud to be a part of that ecosystem. And of course, anytime I have a remix that reaches more than just outside of my studio, I'm beyond excited. I thought it would be cool to dive into the situation with the situation, not just like a track breakdown, but to kind of show people, especially if you're, regardless of where your status is in the world of making music, if you're someone who makes music or just makes art in general, that there is often a battle of attrition. You gotta try hard, and you gotta try more than just once to be able to have some level of success. And I'm not just talking about making lots of music. I'm talking about that a remix isn't always just inspiration and mystical. I had this thing that came to me, and sometimes it is. A lot of the times it's endurance. It's about being able to push through the challenges, and almost never is a challenge a bad thing. Be it something you learn from, be it something you persevere and feel good getting through, or in my case, especially when it comes to writing music or remixing projects, the challenge of getting something that I feel satisfied, that's doing the type of dance that I want the tune to do, it oftentimes leaves a trail, leaves like a graveyard of super dope projects. They may not be the right fit for what I'm imagining in the moment, but the aftermath isn't destruction. I mean, sometimes it's dog shit, but a lot of the times the aftermath is like the bones and like these hidden gems that can turn into other things. So with this particular remix, I actually ended up doing 6 versions in total. The first 5 versions were varying in terms of what result ended up being. And actually a couple of them I really liked. One of them I actually printed and tested out. So we got pretty far, but ultimately what ended up landing and what ended up getting turned in, even though I felt good about it, I just didn't foresee the popularity from it. It felt like a really dope dance tune, if that makes sense. And in my opinion, really dope dance tunes very rarely are what's popular. And a lot of that comes down to, I think, how dance artists approach their interpretation of music. And for other podcasts to be able to dive into those kind of things and try to synthesize those words into something of meaning, whether you're a dancer listening or a music fan, or you're you come from neither world and you're just about what this ecosystem is, and you're a fly on the wall wanting to understand the art behind dance and dance music and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, let's dive into it. Let's take a look at some of these remixes. Let's take a look at, we won't go into a huge breakdown, but we'll get to listen to them. We'll get to talk about a bit of the DNA behind maybe what I was manifesting. And the truth is, until I decided to kind of dive in and be like, I'm gonna do a behind the scenes, or I'm gonna break down my biggest tune of 2025, I realized, oh yeah, I ended up making a bunch of versions trying to get to that place. And I still think the version that I printed out that wasn't the version that was popular is actually something that's got quite a bit of dance in it that I still think deserves its own shine in its own way, but it probably just won't be a remix. It'll be something original. So yeah, let's get into it. Okay, first version that no one's heard. This was the initial attempt. And, looking at the project, you can see there was like some arrangement level going on and some idea going on. So it's not like I wasn't getting somewhere. And when listening back, I realized what I really liked about it, and knowing what I know now, I definitely would pick up these bones and run with it and turn it into something else. It maybe, if nothing else, I feel like the drums are absolutely slamming in this. So I don't know, check it out, see what you think. So my initial impressions are the drums are pretty dope. It's the groove is locked in as far as I'm concerned. Right, like that A part drum groove and then this B part drum groove. Right, and there's more that can be, I think, done there, but between that, the off feeling of the stab, that kind of syncopated, like offbeat stab, I tend to use that motif a lot because it just feels like it creates a sense of syncopation that I like. It's like a layer in dance. If you really want to show contrast between the downbeat and the offbeat, having those kind of like harmonic pieces that carry you besides drums are pretty nice to dance with. Now, the thing that I think it's got a vibe, it's got some grit to it, is this, kind of offbeat syncopated idea with this bass that kind of follows that same motif. And then it has that descending line, that fucking this thing. right? It's like that shit's because of the timbre of it. I think the shit's a bit cheesy. But I like how all of that pocket fits together. Like I like that. And it's an idea that, just changing up, I think, that descending kind of turnaround and then, maybe keep the same timbre or whatever, especially with like this screechy chip tune. I guess it's labeled as chip tune patch thing. Like if we get a little bit more awkward about what that does on a turnaround, where it doesn't just descend down in kind of like your cliche, I say cliche because this is really hot to some people's ears. Like that obvious, you can follow it. And maybe as a line once in a 5-minute arrangement, having that descending turnaround once probably would be pretty cool. But it's, in my opinion, it kind of takes away from some of the stink that the syncopation and the grit of the drums have. So remix 1, the remix no one's ever heard, the initial kind of, probably because I usually number them chronologically, I don't put a number and that's the first version, then V2 is V2, version 3, V3, etc. And then if you see me do something like version 7 million, which sometimes I do that kind of thing, that means I'm really butting my head against the wall, trying to find something that I like. And I hope that by kind of mocking myself and my naming convention, version 8 million, version 90 million, that it's like, come on, Co, get your shit together. You can make something that you want to dance to. So I like this. Take off the vocal and start finding my way around with maybe melody or another vocal idea or something. And I've got something really, really cool here, I think. All right, version 2. I can already tell you, looking at version 2, there's like far less arranging of ideas. There's really no like contrast and getting like any kind of A part, B part, C part, no part. It's just loops and kind of like filling out, creating value. Sometimes I look at the canvas of sound, like a frequency range, like a spectrum, right? So like, imagine we're looking at this EQ here. Down here for those who don't know what we're looking at, down at the bottom or down at the left side is the bottom frequencies where it says 20 hertz, right? And up here at the top where it says 20K, 20,000 hertz is like the top, the high end, so bass at the bottom and then the bright stuff at the top. Sometimes I look at this in my mind's eye. I have this idea of being able to fill out the sonic landscape, not only with rhythm, but with values, think colors and something that's more transparent versus something that's more opaque. Sometimes I think about how to harness those values. And when I'm creating something at different stages, sometimes it's about filling in value. And, I remember back working on trying to come up with ideas for this remix. Almost everything was, for the idea that I was trying to settle on, was lock into something from a groove standpoint with percussion and drums. I don't always approach music in that way. I have a billion different workflows and ways to kind of start tackling ideas, because ultimately for me to make something danceable, I try to land on something that's speaking to me musically where I can already see movement in what it is it's doing. So it doesn't mean it has to be drums, doesn't have to be a bass line, doesn't have to be melody. It can be any weird combinations of things. It could even be a texture that feels like it sets a mood for the precedence of the timbre I'm trying to display in movement. So then the production, what ends up being what gets written in the music, changes. So, sometimes, looking at this project, not even listening, I can tell like I was trying to find my way around saturating the canvas. So let's see what it sounds like.
Yep. Come on. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Yep.
Yep. Just looping. I'm going to skip ahead some bars here and see what we got going on.
Yep. The situation. Yep. Welcome you to the situation. The situation is the vibrations are right. Everybody looking good in the building. Spirits and souls are soaring. 4 a.m. on the dark dance floor.
Everybody looking lovely. Ladies, yeah, I mean, the groove is nice. I feel like when we're listening to the drums, the palette kind of occupies a certain place and rhythmically gives focus to a syncopation, that clave syncopation. It's good, but it's lackluster in terms of I feel like the bones are remedial from like a building block structure. I think that bass thing, this resonated. I think it's cool. I think with like the right kind of modulation and some movement in it, it serves as a really interesting texture, but there's so much room to fill out so much and give this thing so much weight. Why did I abandon it? Why did I move on? I don't know. There might have been something irritating. I might have been like, just kind of focusing on this kind of like stomping clave kind of groove wasn't giving me enough danceability. I'm not sure. But so I moved on. And so we moved into version 3. Version 3 has got a few more parts, but again, I can tell just by kind of looking at where things were left, if I'm, doing the 100-foot stare at the arrangement, looks like I again was trying to find a way to develop value inside of the composition or the palette of sonic color or what have you. Let's see what let's give it a gander. Let's give it a listen. See what it sounds like. Yeah, come on. The situation is, let's get to it.
Welcome you to the situation. Yep. The situation. Yep. Welcome you to the situation.
That's nasty.
The situation is the vibrations are right. Everybody looking good in the building. Spirits and souls are soaring. 4 a.m. on the dark dance floor. Everybody looking lovely. Ladies, I see you. Dancers doing their thing. Come on.
Yeah, I mean, oh man, when those claps and snares and shit kicked in, I immediately saw the pocket. Like I could see the way the foot hits the ground. I could see where the hip locks in. Like, I could see the posture. I saw 2 or 3 of some inspiring dancers, you know, that I love the way they move in my mind, the way they would approach it with their steez and their kind of instrumental interpretation. Everything about that, especially like the lock-in of the drums, that weird bass line, or not weird, but that kind of like obvious, overly repeating single chord kind of bass line. Like that shit works. Like dance wise, it works. Like to me, it obviously doesn't sound like charisma, but to me, this is like the DNA of like charisma and his like Baltimore kind of grit. Like what makes a lot of dancers really attracted to his production style. This, again, in no way I think it sounds anything like a charisma production, but it's the same DNA. It's a mood of what makes it danceable. And to me, it's like, oh, you are on to something here. You are on to something here. I don't want to, again, this isn't a graveyard like, you know, we'll always remember you version 3 remix attempt. You had great snares, but your melody sucked the big one. I mean, it's not like that. It's not a eulogy for this remix attempt. It's just there's something there. It could be massaged. It's even got like good harmonic value, like where it's starting to fill out the frequency ideas with like this stab thing, right? Like there's opportunity there for more. And the vocal, I think, of all the versions so far, the vocal idea to the delivery of the pocket has like the right vibe. It's like, Tony's like, the situation is, yeah. You know, he's got his pinky up and he's like, with some cognac, and he's like, we rocking at 120 BPMs. Ladies, you know, it's like, there's a vibe to that in the timbre, the delivery, the whole shebang with how the vocal is being done, regardless of how I'm arranging it. The track feels that, you know, and I probably was like, oh, I'm getting somewhere. And this could turn into something really, really dope, I think, if I take it in a new direction melodically or songwriting wise. I think the bones there are made of adamantium. Here we go, version 4. Again, some more stuff going on. I don't remember what this one sounds like, so I don't have a preconceived notion of what's going on in my head. But again, I could see I was coloring a little bit more. Things are a little bit more filled out. Obviously, it's not like I don't see a lot of bells and whistles, but I see some. And what do I mean by bells and whistles? I see things like I'm putting in crashes or maybe turnarounds or different things to like force arrangement changes or say, hey, a change is coming or this is going to happen or a new section is introduced. Like I can kind of see just like looking that some of that work was done. But anyways, let's give it a listen and see. We'll kind of give it a few bars, then I'll skip ahead because I'm not going to make you listen to obviously this not fleshed out beginning here at the front.
Yep. Come on. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Yep. I want to welcome you all to the Tony Soul situation. Yep. Welcome you to the situation. Yep. The situation. Yep. situation. Yep. Yep. The situation is the vibrations are right. Everybody looking good in the building. Spirits and souls are soaring. 4 a.m. on the dark dance floor. Everybody looking lovely. Ladies, I see you. Dancers doing their thing. Come on. We're just having a good time with this thing we call house music. Say what? Because when you're inside the situation, all is right with the world. All is right with the universe. Rocking at 120 BPM. Yep. Soul moving music. This ain't made for no children. For the adult soul.
So I know I was like, I'm not going to make you listen to the whole front side of that. But I ended up listening to it because, you know, if I was to produce this out more, this whole beginning section, yeah, I'd probably put a little bit more to feel like it's a little less loopy. But like, I don't know, there's something to it arrangement wise that I wanted to keep listening, which is usually a good sign. It's like, oh, is something going to happen? And then when we dropped in here, there's this effect of how the pocket is being shaped that I think for a dancer is super fucking cool and interesting to play with. But for like the club DJ, you have to really have quite an expressive palette to be able to utilize that in a way that doesn't feel like you're going to kill the energy of what you're doing with a dance floor. Or maybe the opposite. Maybe you're coming from something more settled and you're trying to ramp up. So what do I mean by that? So if we listen to this kind of idea, especially when it comes with that wind up synth. It's like you're sitting heavy on the one and you're kind of like almost in a clave syncopated way. It's like landing heavy on the one, you syncopate, and then you're getting whiplash to then land on the one again with that big, like kind of clap feeling. Like it's like this, it's like something that sits you down heavy and then is like scooting you, and then you get like almost like you're being pulled along, but you're being pulled along with something elastic. So it's like you're being pulled, but the elastic is still stretching while you're being pulled, right? And then it's almost like at the end of being pulled, rather than you've arrived, it's more like you think you're done being pulled, but then the elasticity then gets tight. Then you get launched. So there's like this tweening or delay of like when you get launched back into the next like punctuation of rhythm. And it has a sense of like swing to it in that way. And for a dancer, that can be really interesting because you have the choice to present more of solo composition and how you decide to move in between beats or on top of beats or through beats. And when the rhythm has a divisive swing like that, you can also choose to really have that be the staple of how you're keeping time. So it's an interesting, and for a novice dance artist that's a groove-based dance artist, that's a hard thing to embody physically. It's difficult. It's really difficult. Just like I'd imagine, I'm not a musician, but I play a little bit of music. It's hard to develop certain senses of timing. Certain things some people are more attracted to, whether they practice or it's natural or their ear kind of like vibes with it. So it's like if they're supposed to be swinging and they can't swing, or they're supposed to have like a Latin syncopation and they don't have that, or, there's certain things that it's the same thing with the dancers. No, it's no different. It takes like a level of, body, mind, body connection, and the ear to bridge the gap of like being able to feel that. And I think this is a groove that locks into that really well. Right, it's like that heavy fourth accent. It's like the 1 and the 4. They really hit you really fucking hard. So being able to embody that is tough. Like, right, that downbeat, that 1 right after the 4, after that big smack, it drops you heavy. And I think that's where I think a good place, especially someone who's newer in dance, a groove based like improvised dance, that 1 is going to be obvious and heavy. They're going to have a hard time relating on how they can embody the accent with the 4 there. I just want to skip ahead because real quick over to this part where it's got these stabs, this like chord stab here. Exactly that. Woo! That's exactly how I feel that part. Like that, for me, that is begging me to turn that into something new. Like to take that, what that lock-in is there, like very sampley feel with that guitar loop, in the automation on it. It's got some kind of weird like echo time delay automation. It's kind of moving that guitar rhythm around, and like the way the swing is, and that the delay on the stabs on this guy here, and the grit in it. There's something really interesting there that I want to turn into a new song so badly. So it'll happen one day. Mark my words. One day I find the amount of time to dig out from underneath some of this stuff. This is a vibe though. I thought this is a vibe. Version 5. We're almost at the final version. Now, this is actually the version that I printed and tested out once, if I'm not mistaken. I don't remember where I tested it, but I remember playing it. I remember thinking, wow, this is really good. This is deep. This has something really nice that I'm attracted to. That gives a lot of color. It gives a lot of canvas for dance. But it wasn't the right mood for the vocal, which is ultimately the remix. So rather than just steamroll the vocal, it's a spoken word vocal. It's got some rhythm to it, but it's not overly rhythmic. A lot of people just put vocals on top of stuff. And it's why 90% of spoken word dance music I'm not attracted to. Because there's just, people treat it like you could just have something that you feel is hot underneath and then the vocals, whatever. And in some cases, if something's super hot and the vocals just whatever, okay, sure, it works. But I think the whole idea is in songwriting is that you're supposed to make a thing that feels, it feels like there's something memorable, something where there's various parts that people will either hum in the shower or sing in the shower, or when it comes to dancers, a dancer kind of does something similar to like whistling a tune or a melody. When it comes to dancers, I think dancers do something similar. It's like they're whistling a tune or a melody, but they're a lot of the times doing it with like an idea of shape or feeling, you know. It's like something speaks to the way that they interconnect could be anything. If they really like dancing with their feet, or if they really like dancing with their arms, or maybe they're more isometric and they're, they like to, isolate muscles, or they're more of a groundwork kind of artist. Like they find those like little motifs within what it is that they're comfortable with, and they tend to do that in lieu of like someone going, do 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 do. No copyright there, but having a melody or whistling it or whatever. So I think as I jump into this, I want to predicate, and we won't listen to the whole thing, but I'll skip around. But I want to not predicate, but I want to preface that there was like this long play intention with how this could be built. And I know that I could turn this into something really cool that will be, it'll feel like it just kind of evolves. It won't necessarily need to like do a lot of tension and release. Like there's not a lot of payoff. It's more movement meditation, if you will. So check out version number 5. This one got close, but wasn't the glue.
Yep. Come on. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Yep. I want to welcome you all to the Tony Soul situation. Yep. Welcome you to the situation. Yep. The situation. Yep. Welcome you to the situation. Yep. Yep. The situation is the vibrations are right.
I mean, it's not as dirty as some of the other ones. It doesn't have like some of those instant, like I can't just instantly see some of my favorite dancers dancing to it or inspirational dancers dancing to it. But like this one is meeting, it's like the right amount of sweet and savory where it's got enough of a vibe so far and it's feeling like texturally it's filling out. And I love those kind of tracks that feel like they evolve, like they're deep and they feel like they evolve and they saturate. Let's continue. I'm going to skip ahead. Let's continue listening on here.
Dancers doing they thing. Come on, come on, come on. We're just having a good time with this thing we call house music. Say what? Because when you're inside the situation, all is right with the world. All is right with the universe. Rocking at 120 BPM. Yep. Soul moving music.
Yeah, I mean, for me, that's just crazy. It's got the right amount of like, again, like that moving meditation. Like I could just imagine the right sound system, the right level of like sparse lighting leaves people with enough sensory shutdown to where the ears and the mind's eye are more open than the stimulation of lights and flashing and too many bodies moving in front of them trying to get to the bar, but like the right corner, the right space on the dance floor, like really being with yourself, like sonically, all of those pieces moving around, heavy. Like for me, it's heavy. There's a lot in my mind's eye of what could be created, movement wise. For me, it's definitely a vibe, and it does fit the vocal, but there is a context to the delivery of Tony's vocal where it's almost like he's asking for more funk, like more groove, more funk, more something to step on. And this doesn't feel like that to me. It feels contextually like a lot can be created, but it's like a different kind of like energetic expression where it just doesn't have like a bounce in that way. It's not made to bounce like that. It plays into a sense of like timbre wise and harmonically, it plays into a sense of like uneasiness. It's weird with that sound is weird. It's a bit of like an alarm sound. It's a bit of fight or flight. That's why, like I say, like I've been playing a lot with that the last year or two, where trying to play with this idea of fight or flight, like this, and trying to tap into some of those like natural things that when I was growing up and going to raves, you would hear a lot of uneasy fight or flight type of energies coming out of some of the like, rave house stuff that I used to listen to at these raves, or, I used to go to the jungle rooms a lot, like a lot of the jungle drum and bass stuff, a lot of this, characterly, a lot of human soul in the machine, but a lot of uneasiness. And I've been playing around with those kind of ideas to try and manipulate them to a place where they don't feel like it's just completely energetic, like just raw energy, but there's like this sense of you're belonging to something, you're building something, but it's like almost, it's a little bit of an adrenaline rush, if that makes any sense. It's kind of like, I assume people that do like really extreme sports, like skydiving, crazy bombing of downhills on skateboards or snowboard, skiing, racing, people that drift cars, these like high adrenaline things, like you're bottling, this song's bottling a little bit of that adrenaline up in a sonic idea without it being like, just fucking banging over the top of your head, like in terms of energy, but it's bottling that up in some of the way that it delivers the timbre of things. And I really vibe with that. I think this is going to be something really cool in the future for me. I just need to write the right song that matches that little bottling of adrenaline, I guess. So I don't know. What do you think? Is this your vibe? Is it not your vibe? For me, it works. Here we are, the situation, version number 6, the final version, the version that made it to the people. All the extras and toppings and sweeteners, the bells and whistles in here, the arrangement pieces. This version was all about a pocket. It was all about a groove. It was about getting to a particular payoff and then letting the people sit there and letting Tony just do his work. I think vibe-wise, the timbre and the value that was put into the production matches the value of Tony's vocal performance on top of like the pocket that he's asking for. So this ended up being the version I went with, the version that I turned in, the version that got finished. Yeah, I thought it was a really good dancer track. Did not think in a million years that it would be a good DJ track. I mean, yeah, it works for DJs for sure. I think any track that I make that's obviously a dancer focused tune, I think works for DJs. I just think that, I try not to be an asshole about this, but I just think a lot of DJs suck. I just think that they might have decent taste in music in some cases, but they don't approach putting dance music together for a dance floor like someone who maybe is thinking about producing, arranging, or composing a song for a dance floor. Those like skill sets don't translate because they don't have them. A lot of times they're not thinking in this production mindset of like, how do I compose this thing? So they're not thinking about the way that the music works that way in their set. So that sometimes like I make something I think works really well for a dancer, and I know it'll work well for a dance floor, but I'm not thinking, how do I rock a dance floor? I'm thinking that's the DJ's fucking job to do it. And then they either don't play the track in a way that is advantageous to how the track could be delivered, or they don't play the track at all because they don't hear it because it doesn't sound like automatic energy or something along those lines, if I'm just being honest. And I'm not like some super master level DJ. I've been studying it for a long time, and I'm really studying it now the last 5, 6, 7 years, like really putting a lot of focus into that art form. So, even though I'm, again, not like some master level DJ, I think about all of these things in context. I don't think about making sure I can produce the track for the perfect DJ. I think about, appeasing the dancer and giving something that the dance artist can create with, because ultimately I think that translates to everything. It goes full stop. If you can do well for that, that you get a capable DJ, they're going to put it in the right context compositionally in the set, then it's going to work out. So if you don't know this song, you haven't heard this song before, super cool. It's not so popular that everybody and their mother's probably heard it. I haven't reached that level of luck yet, but it has been pretty popular. And so if you know what it sounds like, you're going to get a little dose of it. I'll kind of give you the beginning, and then we'll skip into those main parts, and we'll do a little track breakdown so you can hear the parts of it.
Yep. Come on. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I want to welcome you all to the Tony Soul situation. Yep.
All right, a little intro, and then we get into the motif that starts to get introduced before we drop into the big heavy stuff, where we get to hear the stab. It's it's a piece of music that gets played and arranged in accordance with trying to keep your attention, trying to keep a vibe.
Yep. Yep. The situation is the vibrations are right. Everybody looking good in the building. Spirits and souls are soaring. 4 a.m. on the dark dance floor. Everybody looking lovely. Ladies, I see you. Dancers doing their thing. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. We're just having a good time with this thing we call house music. Say what? Cause when you're inside the situation, all is right with the world. All is right with the universe. Rocking at 120 BPM. Yep. Soul moving music. This ain't made for no children. For the adult soul. soaring inside the situation. Are we going all night, y'all? Ain't no.
Yes, so that's a bit of the. I mean, there's a section where the tambourine comes in and it picks up a bit more like filled in rhythmic energy. It's a bit bright. It gets a little bit brighter. It gets a little bit more energy, but like the groove itself, the pocket's already well established. Even from this first bit here because of the main stab idea, but like once we drop in here with the additional snare and all that. So let me break some things down for you. Let me give you, I think, the DNA of how all this fits together. And I'll try to approach this from a standpoint of those who are like me, who study music and trying to figure out why certain things work and how I was able to use the idea of dance to be able to really carve out the right amount of syncopation and the right amount of tradition in how the song gets structured and composed. And when I say tradition, I fall back into things that are less complex, but are more, the only way I can describe it is like biological to our DNA. And I think about like call and response. I think about, African diasporic based traditions and music that I've grown up around in the Afro-Brazilian culture, like in capoeira, and like the things that I've learned to how it may sound simplistic from a musical standpoint, but it taps into the idea of some of those traditions. They tap into something that is not only infectious, but it's like it's overstood in terms of you don't have to put a lot of intelligence behind. You don't have to put a lot of science behind. You don't have to put a lot of math behind it. It just taps in. Again, I say it's like biological because I don't really know how else to explain it. It's like it's in our DNA. And so I think I've done pretty well in accomplishing those types of like ancestral feelings in what I was able to compose around this. And that heavily has to do with the placement of what's going on with the vocal. So first off, I'll do something we'll look at something that's more tangible, and then we'll get into the weeds a little bit. Or sorry, not more tangible, but like more foundational, and then we'll get into the weeds. So I started off trying to build a groove, and I had found this like techno drum noise groove. Which is like fully the basis for like the pocket. It already feels like it has this pocket to it. Now, this groove was at 134 BPM, so I'm slowing it down to 125 BPM. So it's like at speed, this groove, like if we listen to this groove at speed, 134, this is its natural speed. It's like quite driving and aggressive. Right? But when I heard it, I was going through my Splice library and I heard this loop, and it also has a bunch of low end on it. Very dirty. Right? But when I heard it, it sounded to me because of almost like this, there's like a sucking or pulsing in it. I thought, man, if I was to sidechain that where my kick drum was forcing the downbeat out of that, like the crunch that you hear in it. And I was, obviously going to slow it down. I'm not going to make the track at 134. It's just not really my vibe, at least not for this song. Once I slowed it down and kind of like got the loop in there, it's like just slow enough to where it has that, like I was saying in that last project, it has enough of that swing to it. Well, I had gotten this other groove that was the opposite, that was really slow at 116 BPM. It was very syncopated, feels very, it's super swung. It just feels like the opposite is the best way I can describe it. Like the vibe of it feels the opposite of that other loop. It's like the two of them were like two opposite sides of the railroad tracks staring at each other. Like, yeah, I'm swinging in slow, and the other guy's like, I'm dirty and driving super fucking hard and fast. And timbre-wise, they felt like they lived in the same world, even though they were on opposite sides of the railroad tracks. It's like the county line where the two kids, you know, Romeo and Juliet type shit, where it's like the two kids, you know, want to hang out with each other, but for some reason the families feel like they can't. They felt like they could hang out together, but like speed wise and groove wise, they probably shouldn't. So by the time one got sped up and the other got slowed down, and obviously things got sidechained, so they're pulsing against that quarter note, the groove that I was going to do with the kick, they made for a really cool thing that locked in. Right, and with that kick, heavy, dirty kick. Right. From there, I added that offbeat rhythm that parts from the kick. And the way that the rhythm got manipulated was that you're kind of pulsing up into the velocity. So it's not like just an offbeat. It's an offbeat that swings against the pocket that was being developed with those three parts. So you can hear how like at parts of that, what's essentially like an 8-bar phrase, I'm accenting the second offbeat more so than the other. So it feels like it kind of like pulses up. And how I choose that is completely natural, right? Like I'm just playing it on a keyboard or a drum pad, and I'm just listening to that groove the same way I would dance. And I'm feeling the movement like, oh, this feels like I would move bigger here. So it's kind of like if I was to dance to the accent, it feels like there's more movement that gets accented at those points in rhythm. So that's how it ends up getting played. It's like a feeling, a state of feeling that I borrow from the way I interpret music as a dancer. And then you can hear that I accent that a little bit more with this bop sound, again, kind of more hovering around the second offbeat, so to speak, right? Or the second beat, so to speak. So I'm like really playing on that initial rise or initial syncopation of energy, and then the fall off that comes with the end of the bar. Right? So it's like the DNA and how I'm establishing the pocket is immediately there from the open. Okay. That was fundamental to how I constructed the track. Was I thinking about it so philosophically? This is the way I'm kind of explaining it while I was doing it. No, I was feeling it naturally to how I was probably establishing the value in what I was like crafting, right? Let me turn off the vocal here. So as we get into like the essentially what becomes like the foundational section, some of the things here is like this open hat. And you notice that the open hat and the up hat from initially, they're really noisy and they're quite clangy. And that's because I don't do this all the time. I used to do this a lot, probably 10, 15 years ago, making music, where I would use a lot of snares and things that kind of are a bit more abrasive as an offbeat versus like a hi-hat or a shaker. And a lot of that comes from the influence I had early on listening to when I was like quite a bit younger, trying to mimic some of Charisma's music, like some of the timbre choices that he would have to accent offbeats. It's even though if I didn't understand what it was, I knew that the timbre choice in the offbeat was like closer to a clap or a snare or what have you. And of course, like the influence of like that ring shout gospel kind of like, you know, church clap, like the timbres of those in the offbeat give a different feeling. And there's something that I've always been attracted to. And me not doing that is a testament, me not kind of choosing those timbres all the time is a testament to me trying to grow in my ideas and learn how to do better with other types of sound rather than rely on something that I feel like I established early on as something I enjoyed, which is putting those kind of timbres in the offbeat. And then these accented snares, right? Again, very syncopated. Nothing is like landing on the downbeats, right? So if you look at the way this stuff is arranged, it's like this hat's in the offbeat, this blop is in this weird, 16th before that offbeat, and then we have another 16th that come right after that. So we're really filling out, like between the three of those, we have a really interesting fill out, right? Really syncopated, right? Which a lot of people are quite afraid, or they don't program around that because again, like I think people are afraid of like what's not easy to mix or what doesn't feel like it's going to fit compositionally next to a track that's just boots and cats, like the framework of like traditional house or techno of this like downbeat, 2/4 backbeat, offbeat, the disco pump or what have you. I tend to like really stay away from that shit to the detriment where I miss the opportunity to make some cool stuff sometimes because I just don't automatically dance to that formula, so I don't make music in that formula. Now, let's get to the stab, which is this guy here. Again, syncopated, right? It's not happening on a down, happening before the downbeat. And it's finding itself in accent with some of the other rhythmic places that I've gotten there. And it has these weird, untimely, syncopated, rhythmic like triplets or what have you. Right? It's quite a vibe. I accent that with another stab, which is getting automated. Right, which is holding a bit more of a steady line. It's a syncopated line, but it's a steady line next to the other stab, right? Right? That shit by itself, it's hard to find where rhythm is by itself, right? Everything is so off kilter. And that's something that I can't speak for all dancers because it's nice to have things where there's an obvious one, there's an obvious place to land. But, I learned this lesson. I'm not a big salsa music person. Obviously I have a great affinity for Latin music and Latin American music and salsa and the way people dance the salsa music and all these various Afro-Latin, like everything, that the whole universe of what that musical contribution is to like dance and music. I learned from very early on that like the level of syncopation, polyrhythmic expression and stuff that would take place in these Latin clave based like rhythms, it was like quite infectious and it just makes you want to dance because there's always something to find. Even if you can't understand it with your ear, your body somehow finds it. So I think like I play into that quite often, which is why people just go, oh, you make like Latin or Afro shit. And it's like, that drives me nuts to have labels like that in general when it comes to like the stuff that I'm doing. But this is all to say, using those levels of syncopation in something so important like these stabs, to where they're not on their own the groove. They are the response to the other thing that's already locking down the groove. And obviously the most important thing, which is the vocal of the track. So if you listen, especially to the way that the stabs play, they do establish some sort of timing. So they feel like they have groove against the track, but they're really between the stabs, the bells and whistles of like the various dub effects, like these kinds of sounds, right? Or this, which are like those little bottles of adrenaline I was talking about, which I fucking love. Not only like texturally, but like, again, those little bottles of adrenaline, those uneasiness, but urging, but not so unsettling that makes you want to jump out your skin. Between those things, there's another one, the alarms, right? In the proper mix placement, the unsettling, all these things kind of below the fold here, in the purple and down, they're all a call and response against what's taking place with the vocal. I do a little bit of that with the percussion as well, but they're all listening to the vocal and answering the vocal. So listen to the phrasing. We'll start here at bar 65, listening to how these elements correspond to Tony Soul's vocal. I gotta play the vocal.
Rocking at 120 BPM. Yes. Soul moving music. This ain't made for no children. For the adult soul. When you inside the situation. When you inside the situation. Souls and spirits soaring inside the situation. Are we going all night, y'all? Ain't no stopping us now. Yep.
So I mean, and I don't want to like beat this over the head, because this could just, the podcast is meant to be long form, but I also feel like you'll have a different way of listening to this song, thinking about just these contextual parts of nothing else. And I will implore you to go listen to the song, and try to find those little tidbits of what you enjoy in terms of call and response. But just as like an example, here's two parts that I think call and response works super well. So listen to this.
20 BPM. Yes. Soul moving music. This ain't made for no children. For the adult soul.
All right, so he goes, this ain't made for no children. And in the stabs, it's like the stabs, I think about like, okay, I'm dancing and I'm in this groove, I'm in this pocket, I'm creating some movement. And then the vocal goes, this ain't made for no children. And I'm responding to that, like literally waving my finger. It's like a physical reaction, like, no, this is not made for no children. It's overtly sassy, but it's like the sound is literally saying like, no. It's literally agreeing with him in a very like, what do they call it? It's a negative affirmative or whatever, like, no, I'm agreeing with you. No, it's not. Like, listen to that line again.
This ain't made for no children.
Right? That stutter. This ain't made for no children. That. It's like, it is the response. It is that, it is that call. It is that call and response. Like I said, it's so ancestral, and that's why I think that feels so good. How did I make that decision? I fucking played it. Like, I was playing this stab, and of course I'm like finding a rhythm. I'm finding a pocket for it. But then I'm going back and I'm comping together the way that it should feel, right? I'm doing things and sometimes they're a little too much and sometimes they're just perfect, or sometimes they're overly perfect and I'm doing it too often because it feels like it fits, right? Like you're writing against that. And those who say that this kind of stuff is not writing because it isn't melody, it isn't extra harmony, like you're tripping. This is like, and this is not like to big up myself, but this is just to big up electronic music in general. This is like high level, like beautiful writing, but it's just expressed for a different type of artist's ears. That's all. Versus like the sophisticated, grown up, pressed and steamed and dry cleaned shirt at the Blue Note, sipping on fine cognac, right? It's different than that. It's overworn, almost holes in the knees, Adidas sweatpants with the most beat up shoes because it's dark and it doesn't matter what they look like, so you can't really see them, but they're super comfortable. And hopefully the person is well showered and deodorized, and they're just there to sweat and to find these types of ideas in the music. This is their pure listening sensation. It's these types of songwriting choices that I think are the brilliance in dance music, house music, etc. And I'm not saying I'm brilliant. I'm just saying this is the stuff that I listen for, that I find to be the fine wine, high level, Blue Note, super jazz jam, like it's like the sophisticated, that SpongeBob meme or whatever it is like, adult freeform jazz or whatever SpongeBob says, like, about finding to be an adult. It's like, you can listen to freeform jazz. It's like, this is like that, but for the dance music world, in my opinion. And listen, in this section, where was it? I digressed a bit, but I think I made my point there. But it happens in a number of moments, right? Like, I think maybe here or something.
Are we going all night, y'all? Ain't no stopping us now. All is right with the universe. All is right with the world. In the situation. The situation is the vibrations are right. Yep. Everybody looking good in the building. Spirits and souls are soaring. Yep. 4 a.m. on the dark dance floor. Everybody looking lovely. Ladies, I see you. Dances.
Right, it's like this whole section is like, it's a calm, again, it finds a rhythm, but it's like all a calm response to the motif, and I accented a bit that myself, more so against Tony's delivery, right? Like, I cut up his yep, and I would place that, He would say something.
Yep.
And I would place that against the rhythmic ideas.
The vibrations are right. Yep.
Right? And that's fitting itself into those other syncopated ideas, like my Batman smack that comes in once in a while, which is this guy. Right? That's like, what do you mean Batman smack? Like old school, I grew up like old school public access TV Batman, where he's like wearing the purple, it's like lavender Batman, the old school one. And it's like, and they get in a fight, and he'd be like, smack, wham, thud. Like, so every time I hear like things like that, I think like Batman smack. But it's like all those things play in. They're a way to play off of the delivery, the calm response to the vocal.
The vibrations are right. Yep. Everybody looking good in the building. Spirits and souls are soaring. Yep. 4 a.m. on the dark dance floor. Everybody looking lovely. Ladies, I see you.
Right, and the giveaway, like, ladies, woo! That, like, which I kept in, like, every version of the song. It's like, I knew I wanted to go that with the vocal. Right? Yeah, I think, like, the moral of the story with this song was, like, really about finding those pockets and about finding those ins and outs. And the call and response, like the songwriting, as simple as it is and as groovy as it is, it's rhythmically super sophisticated in relevance to the vocal. Without the vocal, it's a fantastic production. Like, I hate calling my own shit like amazing. But I'm saying, like, as an instrumental, it's gonna make people dance, is what I mean by that. Great. But like, the idea in the songwriting is this interwoven play of rhythmic syncopation and call and response, right? These accents, this big clap thing, finding its place every so often against these other stabs or these other bits of accent and the Batman smacks and these other accented stabs, right? That aren't happening all the time, just in a couple spots, like finding those bits of motif-worthy repeatability, but at the same time trying to tap in biologically to what is that calm response and how that feels so good. I think that this song ticked all the boxes for what I wanted, like a dancer's dance floor weapon to be, but I never in a million years would have thought it would have been my most popular tune of 2025. And I'm very happy that it was, but if I'm being very honest, I'm a little bummed that it was so popular. And the reason why is not that I don't want my music to reach a lot of people and I want a lot of people to dance to it. And I, of course, want people to love my music like I love my music. But I did so much good music that I released last year. Remix projects, original tunes, vinyl, digital. I did so much cool music, and the vast majority of it was heard by a tenth of the people. And that, that's where I get a little bit more bummed. And I've heard some people say, well, when you have like a large quantity of stuff, you don't have the same quality. And I don't look at this, the way I do music, especially songs like these, I don't look at them the same way as like a quality over quantity thing, because I come from a different lens of art. I'm not writing a masterpiece every time I sit down to write music. I'm doing jazz. Like I'm sitting down and expressing and reacting and improvising, and I'm doing the same thing that I do when I dance. I can intellectualize it a bit in the aftermath, but like I'm in the moment, I'm with a spirit, I'm with the universe, I'm with my mind's eye. I'm in a creative state, in some cases of flow, in some cases of resistance and endurance and perseverance. But it's not as simple as, just do more quality and less quantity, because that's not how I create art. So, honestly, it is a little disheartening that, well, yeah, a lot of my music, I'm sure a lot of people were very grateful for, and a lot of people collected, and I'm so happy. I'm not saying like everything just got completely slept on. Some shit got completely slept on, but it's like, of all the music I made, it's just disappointing that some of that music that I thought was equally as lovely, if not more capable of providing a way more infectious dance floor itch to be scratched than this song. But there you go. It's a good lesson for you if you're making music and haven't had a popular anything, that you've learned now that you don't know what the people are really going to love, but it's not about making the thing for the people to love. It's about you making the thing that you want to make because you got to make it. And that's how I approach this. There's nothing about this. It's like, this is going to be a hit. I'm going to do this because this works really well. Like, I'm not fucking stupid. I know what I can do that'll be popular. I know exactly the types of sounds. I know exactly the types of tropes and themes and things. I know what people tend to make over and over again that works well. I'm not an idiot. I have more than enough experience now that I can play into that. And if I, knock on that door enough times throughout the year, I'll have far more success on a regular basis in terms of popularity. But I am not chasing that because that shit is whack to me. Not the principle of being popular. Of course I want people to listen to my music. It's the principle of like, I'm doing the jazz. Like that's what's cool to me. It's like finding the way into something. And if it happens to have a little bit more of like a cliche vibe to it, it's not because I wanted it to be that way. It's because that's how that idea got there. That's where the spirit took me. So cool. Well, I hope you enjoyed this story dive into the situation. You got the whole situation or the majority of the situation with the situation. Thank you to Omero and Moulton Music for bringing me in on this project. Or really Dom from Stranger Danger, probably, Bug and Omero and the both of them really, for bringing me in on this project. This was the first time, if I'm not mistaken, I've ever done something for a local label or locally other than my own stuff. So here in the Bay Area, so I couldn't be more proud to be a part of a catalog and DNA here in my local area. And Moulton's been doing a lot of stuff for a really long time. So very proud of that. Shout out to Tony Soul for being, for now having, the voice of a moment for 2025, as far as I'm concerned. Thank you to everybody who enjoyed, played, streamed, shared this song. That's, it's the reason why it was the most popular tune for me last year. And thank you to all of my Patreon fam for your love and your support. And you being able to produce this type of content is major for me. I love talking about the things that I love and being able to look at my projects and be able to create teachable moments, I think is super beneficial. I still live for this kind of stuff, but I always live for this kind of stuff, watching the people I admired and been fans of. So I'm hoping that I'm paying this, forward with folks that may be into my music and maybe want to learn and take inspiration from this, because every single time I'd seen any kind of breakdown of an ad jazz tune or got to see someone in the studio making or writing, it's always been super. It's still to this day, it's not like it's left me. It's still a huge inspirational push for me to see those who I admire doing cool stuff. So being able to see that in the works is super awesome. So Patreon folks, thank you so much for empowering me to be able to do this. And if you'd like to support this and other really cool projects, head over to patreon.com/Coflo and show me some love. If nothing else, you get more than the value per month of VIP access to music promos that I'm able to give out. So yeah, head over to patreon.com/Coflo. We appreciate you. We'll see you in the next episode. Peace and love from the Bay Area. Late.